let's look at how to solve quadratic equations by completing the square. Sometimes you cannot solve an equation by taking the square root or factoring. So if you can't use those two methods, you'll need to solve by completing the square, as is the case in this problem. So here we have x squared minus 8x plus 5 equals 0. The first thing you have to make sure is that the coefficient in front of x squared here is 1, which it is. So if it wasn't, you'd have to worry about factoring out the coefficient that's in front of this x squared, but that's not an issue in this problem. So the whole problem isn't factorable, but we can complete the square and make it factorable. The first thing I like to do is clean this up by taking this 5 and moving it to the other side by subtracting 5. That allows us to cancel out here, and we can rewrite this as x squared minus 8x equals negative 5. Now some people prefer to rewrite the problem a different way. It might be something like you kind of will rewrite it like this and leave some space here and leave some space here, like that. But I'm going to stick to this method because this is the method I prefer. So we won't worry about that. Now the next step is to take this number right here, the number in front of this x, just this regular x, not the x squared, this number. You want to take this number and you want to half it. So it's negative 8. Negative 8. We want to half it, so negative 8 divided by 2 will give us negative 4. And then you want to square this number. So negative 4 squared is positive 16. Two negatives multiplied together will give us a positive number. So now you're going to take this positive 16 and you're going to add it to both sides of the equation. X squared minus 8x plus 16 equals negative 5 plus 16. Now you might be wondering why we're allowed to do that, just add numbers to the equation. But it's fine to do as long as you add it to both sides. In algebra, as long as you add the same thing to both sides of the equation, it's perfectly okay because it won't change the outcome at all. They just cancel each other out. So, and as you can see now, by adding 16, the reason why we did this is because now we have something we can factor on the left here. But let's first go ahead and simplify this right side. Negative 5 plus 16 is 11. And over here, we now have something we can factor. And here's a little trick. You're going to break this down into x, and you're just going to take this number, whatever this number was, when you halved this number, in this case it's negative 4, that's what's going to go in the parentheses. And there's going to be 2 of them, and they're going to be identical. And you can test this too by doing x times x gives you x squared. X times negative 4 will give you negative 4. Negative 4 times x will give you another negative 4. If you add those two together, you're going to get negative 8x. And then negative 4 times negative 4 would give you 16. So this is the same thing as this. It's just factored. And let's simplify it a little further by just calling this x minus 4 squared. This is also the same thing as this. Any number or something like this multiplied by itself is just that number squared. So now let's do this. Since we have this squared right here, let's square, or take the square root of, both sides of the equation. Once again, we can do this because in algebra, as long as you do it to both sides of the equation, it won't affect the answer. And when you take the square root of something that's squared, well, it just makes it no longer squared. So now it's just x minus 4. This taking the square root and this squared just cancels each other out. So now we have x minus 4 equals 11 squared. We don't even need parentheses. I didn't need to put that there, but let's just rewrite it. X minus 4 square root of 11. Oh, and you have to write plus and minus before the square root. You always have to do that. And let's simplify it by adding 4 to both sides. And I'm running out of room here, so I'm going to move over here and just write our final answer is x equals 4 plus or minus the square root of 11. So you might have to write that as x equals 4 plus the square root of 11, or x equals 4 minus the square root of 11. All right, let's take a look at this problem. Once again, we can see that we can't factor this. So let's start by cleaning this up and moving this 4 to the right side. This will cancel, and we'll be left with x squared plus 12x equals negative 4. Now the next thing to do, you might remember, oh, and by the way, we didn't have to worry about factoring anything out here because the coefficient in front of the x squared is just 1. So anyway, the next step is we want to take this 12 and we want to half it, and it is a positive 12. 12 halved or divided by 2 is 6, and 6 squared, that's the next step, is 36. And we're going to take this 36 and add it to both sides of the equation. X squared plus 12x plus 36 equals negative 4 plus 36. I'm going to go ahead and just simplify this real quick. Negative 4 plus 36 is 32. And then you'll see over here we now have something we can factor. And once again, you can use this little trick that the number you're going to put in the parentheses is just going to be positive 6 for both of them. X plus 6, x plus 6. And if you were to work this out, you would come up with this answer, x squared plus 12x plus 36. So this is the same thing as this. And we can simplify it further by just making it x plus 6 squared. This is the same thing as this. It's just the same thing multiplied by itself. We still have 32 on the right side here. Let's go ahead and square both sides to get rid of this. So now we just have x plus 6 on the left. And let's see what we come up with for the square root of 32. This is something we can break down a little bit. So 32, you could do 4 times 4 times 2 to get to 32. 4 times 4 is 16. 16 times 2 is 32. So you have two 4's here, so you can bring that out of this square root. So these two 4's can both come out. So we have 4 here, and we have to put that plus and minus there also. I often forget to do that. And then we'll still have a 2 inside the square root. So now we have to just move this 6 over to this side. And then that'll give us x equals negative 6 plus or minus 4 times the square root of 2. And you'll probably have to write it as like something like x equals negative 6 plus 4 in the square root of 2, or x equals negative 6 minus 4 and then the square root of 2. This is what you'll probably have to write like as a final answer on a problem, because you have to include both scenarios, the negative 6 plus this and the negative 6 minus this. Any questions? Comment below.